always go into life as a student. In the spaces that you walk into, the opportunities that you're granted, look at them as if, geez, I don't deserve this. What can I learn from this situation? What can I learn from this gig? What can I learn from this relationship? And that will always kind of, put you in a position where you're not looking at it as what I stand to gain, but what can I contribute?
He said, not all of us are going to eat off our talents. What?
And that's true. So, but you need to go there and fail and find out. It's that whole thing of resilience. As a business, as an entrepreneur, you need to be willing to let some people go and let them come back if they want to come back. They usually do, especially if you are, if you're standing on business and you know exactly what you're talking about. But there isn't a concept that we come up with, there isn't a campaign that we develop from ground up that doesn't have a human element, because you need to be able to connect to the human being before reaching their pocket. So if whatever it is that we're doing doesn't resonate with the human being inside of you, then it means nothing at the end of the day, because you have the buying power to decide, do I want to spend my money on this? Do I want to spend money buying a ticket to said event? You know what I mean? It could be as simple as that.
From Kona Juta Ndipia, imini nomsindisi wesizwe, umvelisi ummelisi wesizwe, formerly known as Lwazi Madonsela, bringing you a show about creative entrepreneurs live from the landmark that not only birth SA street culture, but also formalize the street hustle.
Kona Juta Ndipia, special edition. First one this year.
Welcome back.
It's been a while, so we called him Bali, aka Cherry, Ubisi. How are you?
I'm good, my brother. How are you?
Could be a bit better.
Wow, that's insane.
I think genuinely in life there's always room for more. So when you say could be better, it's full as opposed to better.
Sure. But gratitude is also important, right? To just say I'm happy in this moment right here.
Yes. You have a lot of job titles. Someone do.
Yeah.
If you had to say, what is it that you do to someone who doesn't know?
I'm a creative entrepreneur. That's the one that I like the most. If we're going to talk titles, I'm a creative entrepreneur only because everything else kind of boxes you to something, and I think I never wanted to be boxed from the start. So it was difficult to also just say, this is exactly who I am. So as the world continues to kind of, grow and develop and to be exposed to more, I think what it is and what I am is a creative entrepreneur. Yeah.
How long have you been a creative entrepreneur? Independently?
I'm trying to think. It's been a while because my last real job, I like to give parts of the story. I worked for a Jewish company who was selling Forex, teaching people how to trade Forex. So it was in that job in the year 2015, I think, where I used my ex-boss's resources to kind of, clean myself up with as much as I could, just as far as, a startup company or something in the digital world. And I took a leap of faith. 2016, I was fully done and started operating as an independent, but broke creative, living in the city, just figuring it out.
But I think the most beautiful thing in your story is, I want to term this chapter starting with what you have.
Yeah.
How you started your first company using your phone. Would you like to elaborate on that? Because most people we're looking at it most of us we're looking at it I need the camera, I need the crew,
sure.
I need this, I need to pop in already. How did you start with what you have?
So I think I like that question also because times have changed. Like now, even if you want to kind of get started, I want to say there's value in, trying to say I need a camera, I need a proper tripod, etc. But in my position, starting with just my phone was all I needed because everything else was just within my cell phone. The connects, the network, the information, and all I needed to do was just to apply myself to such a point where, because my first company, Share Relations, was only registered in the year 2018. But before I officially registered it, I needed to operate as the way that I would once it's officially on paper with CIPC. So I had that information. It was just Googling, knowing what to do. I always say Google's your best friend. And that's for me is what I needed. Just, okay, how am I going to take this. I was part of like a bunch of like Twitter promo teams with other people who were also doing what started me off. And then, just like I said again, it's funny though also because recently my sister was looking for information on, because she's also my younger sister, she's trying to get a job and she's trying to get in there and make some money on the side. And I said, your CV isn't up to scratch. I think do a little bit of research, even go on Pinterest and find like, how do I improve my CV? They literally give you step-by-step guides. How do I put together business plans, step-by-step guides? This is all stuff we have access to, but we're looking for the wrong information because we're there for, we want to get a cute picture, all that stuff. So it was just using everything that I had to my disposal and trying to kind of set it up in such a way where it moves me from point A to B, C. Yeah.
Starting with what you have, at that point, what would you say you were doing?
I was doing research, I was learning, I was being a student to this particular industry, listening, not speaking so much, asking questions, just trying to get involved, doing as much as I could to learn. Before it was so easy now to kind of get involved with influencer events, I was trying to reach people who were sending out the media list and all of that stuff. Just trying to understand, okay, what's their role? What do they do? How can I connect myself so that I can be recognized by such and such person in order to appear on media list, to be considered as an influencer, etc., etc. So that's what I was doing. I was studying. I had to study. Yeah.
How does one then connect? Because now you move to the background where you're still an influencer to a certain degree, but you move to the background where the companies are saying, we're trying to meet this type of consumer, this is what we're trying to relay, this is the brief. How do you get to the point where you're no longer just influencing, but now you are choosing the influencers?
Sure.
You're making sure people are being paid. Because there's that relationship that most creators in the infancy of creativity that they don't understand is the waiting period for payments.
Sure.
How do you articulate the brief and the payment structure?
This one is a funny one because it's never easy, right? But when you immediately go into something with the understanding that I obviously wear different hats and have different understandings of certain things. Number one, a structure was important for me to transition just as an individual. So getting in business with certain partners who understood some of my strengths allowed me to, just act where they were benefiting the most and where I was like able to give the best of me. But I think in business, it just came to a place where you needed to understand. I felt as though there was lots more value with me being behind the scenes, which is negotiating for better rates for influencer contracts and all that stuff, as opposed to being the person that's creating the content. Because after a while, don't connect with the brief. That's only because my mind keeps on running and I'm thinking about all these other elements. So you see where you add the most value and you decide, let me stick here, let me stay here because I think I can bring a change out of the situation. Because I was getting frustrated with influencers being stifled with the type of content they can create or whatever, do you know what I mean? Being too scripted, not being authentic. I'm hearing all of those things, but because I also have the experience of being the person that's supposed to create the content, I was like, you know what? I need to make a decision here. And I think we all get to a point in our careers where you have to make a decision to say, where could I bring more value? Where is there a guarantee to be more coming in than going out? And it's a difficult one to make at first because remember, you're also sitting in a place where it's nice to have a little bit of money from this outlet, but also nice to, be the boss and all of that.
Yeah.
And even just being in an environment that allows you that type of, that luxury. Because so I felt I was very blessed with the people that I was working with who were not also afraid to put my name forward. But when it came down to me going to sleep at night and feeling like, okay, today I've given my best, it felt like creating wasn't really where it wasn't my strong suit. There was more value coming from me for somebody who could understand the brief and fit the right influences for these set briefs. So, and bring out the best so that the client also walks away feeling like, okay, we were heard, our KPIs were fulfilled, and we're extremely happy with how this turned out. So, yeah.
When you get to that stage in your career where you've understood your role and you understood how far you want to go, how do you then assemble a team? Because most of us, we get to a point where it's like, okay, cool, this podcast is doing well, this is doing well, these are the touch points that are working out, that I didn't see working out at some stage. how do you then assemble a team that takes this dream a bit further? Because now you've tasted what it's all like.
Yeah. You've actually just answered it. I think it's really just taking the time to assess, okay, this is the thing, this is what we've done so far, this is what it looks like. Is there still potential for it to get better? And I think once you've identified those elements, you along with the people who are, pushing this dream with you, you guys come together to say, this is what we would like to maybe just, work on, improve on. How do we do it? I don't think anything is really a one-man show. I can't sit here and say that I purely got here on my own. I think it's just having people who also share the dream. And sharing the dream isn't the thing that we've all made it to be. I want this, I want that. I think what motivates people to wake up in the morning is doing something that they love. Whether it means I need to, I don't know how to put this, but if it means I need to do certain things in order to make sure that you shine for the greater good, then I should be willing to do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without feeling some type of way, or as if, okay, but putting Lozzie in the shine is going to take away from what I'm doing. If you've got, when you use a silly example, a gaffer that works with your production, and they understand that the greater goal here is for this, they will be more than happy to come on board to even add input to say, but I think we should do this instead of that, and this will, bring out a better outcome. So assembling the team was, it had to do with just kind of being vulnerable to say, this is where I see the potential of this thing going. This is what we've been doing, because I also kind of have to explain to say that when I got into a partnership with the Business Training Topics, it was 3 people that came together who each had a different vision of the same dream and knew where they could come in to bring that dream to life. Do you know what I mean? So we were like, okay, I see these are your strengths, I see these are your strengths, these are my strengths. How do we then put all of this together? And we really, I want to say we started something that was so magical, because it was really just cheering each other on in our, 100%. So that's what it was, assembling the team and then continuing to just be discerning with the people that you meet along the journey, because you do meet people. Some people want to add on to the dream, some people obviously want to take away for whatever reason, but be discerning. Who are the people that I can take on this journey with me, who will bring value to this thing? And I just think naturally human beings, once they feel that they are a part of something, they stand to gain something. That's why ownership is also such a big thing. You can give somebody a title, but if they have ownership to know that a portion of this is something that belongs to me, you're more inclined to, show up and put your best foot forward, because this is also something, it's basically mine. It's mine as much as it's his.
How do you handle it when not everyone is invested in the dream the same way they started? Because once we start seeing certain profit shares or things don't go as fast as we want, the effort and the input being used is no longer the same.
Yeah. I mentioned vulnerability at first, and vulnerability is something that's important throughout from each person, right? Because should something happen where, let's say I'm no longer able to perform, the same way that I did when I started, then I should be able to be vulnerable to tell the people that I'm involved with. And this is why community is so important, just to be able to say, gents, I'm struggling here and there. I need you guys to just, for a couple of weeks, for whatever it takes, if you're able to share that and be vulnerable and to let people know, because it doesn't make you less of a leader, it doesn't make you less of a good partner. You just are struggling with X, Y, and Z. Maybe there's something I'm trying to figure out as we're shooting the podcast. Maybe there's new systems that we're being exposed to, and my knowledge isn't as great as yours, but I still see the dream. You know what I mean? So it also just, I think, just being, I said vulnerability, just honesty, transparency with everybody that's involved. I've found that just takes a lot of the load off of you feeling like you have to carry something on your own. Because now what happens if you withhold some of those things, you then get frustrated with people not being able to front for you or to cover for you. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, but we didn't even know you were struggling. So how are we supposed to keep on covering you and showing up if you have not shared this? So, and if there is a joint decision to say perhaps you are unfit or you're not able to show up the way that we need you to, let's come together and think of a solution. If you're still not, again, it takes a level of just humility and vulnerability to come to a place and say, I think I'm letting the team down. If you're not able to do that, then you've cost everybody else. And when decisions are taken outside of, your presence or whatever, then you start feeling like the whole world is attacking you. But I mean, we've always said that we were a team. So when, between everything that's happened, when did that change? It changed when you started withholding and not being honest with the people that you're on this journey with. Because the thing about that is that it keeps us accountable, right? When you're honest and you're able to be vulnerable, the people around you know how to hold you and keep you accountable. And exactly, and if we don't have that within our community and the people we're building this dream with, then, so I know it gets a little bit deep, but I think we hear a lot about, business relationships and partnerships and all that stuff, but I think it just comes down to really just the human being being able to navigate within the group setting and realizing that it's not just you anymore. And you have to consider the other people that you're doing this thing for. When I took a personal decision to take a step back from creating and influencing and even taking some influence again, although they were helping me get by, it was really for the greater good of the company and where we see this thing going. Because I can't say that I'm fully focused if I still have to, spend some of my time there and put some of my time in that and all of that. It was a personal sacrifice that was for the greater good of the dream that we had all shared and we're all building. So, and sometimes it takes that, I think.
So sacrifice as much as you dream.
Yes. Because the dream doesn't come without the sacrifice.
Speaking of business, I think the most important thing in any business for me is when you create these companies and they start working out is client relationships. How do you maintain the human aspect of your business? Even when on a personal note you weren't treated right, on a personal note you weren't paid on time. Now you coming off bad because now you're the bridge between the influencers and the brand. Everyone is saying you're withholding money. They don't understand the 90-day payment system, and it's 90 working. It's not 90 days. After 3 months they're calling you there's still like 10 more days, don't worry, we'll be good in 10 days.
That's such a difficult one because we're still fighting the good fight, I believe. I've kept, so the human aspect, and if we go back to the conversation we just had, right, about just like, humility, there are all these things about us that at the end of the day make us human. We all bleed should you cut us open, right? So I think it was also not fine. The conversation with the client is a different one because a client is a client, but with the people within the business who help us keep the light on, it's to have an honest conversation, guys. I don't know who you've worked with in the past or what other relationships you have or whatever, but these are our payment terms, and this is the reason why we have these payment terms. I'm not sharing this information with you to point fingers to make somebody else look bad, but we need you to understand that should you come on board for whatever campaign, these are the systems, and everything that we show you guys is everything is we've got 10 times harder steps that we need to pass, like, that side, because there's vendor forms and there's all that stuff that you're not privy to. And that's okay, but this is what it is. If anything goes, over and above, let's say the said time, please just give us a grace period and to continue to be honest. Do you know what I mean? So I think even the same way with the client as you explain to them, this is the business that we're in and this is what we do. It works unlike, the people that you're used to paying, who are other big, companies and all of that stuff. As small black-owned agencies, things run a bit different, and some of these people also rely on this for, to take care of their houses or, their families. So we just want you to understand why, instead of a 90 working day payment term, we would ask for 60 days at the very most, and speak to your financial department. And then there's all these other boards that we need to pass, APCCs and all of that stuff. If you're a creative who has had to submit a vendor form to any of these large institutions, you'd know that there are always boards and all these guys that you need to have these kind of conversations with, and then we all meet at a point. And this is why I sometimes feel that it's insulting when people want to say, yeah, but this is how business is. And it's like, yeah, I'm not trust me, I understand how business is, but our nature of business is different. And you need to be willing to meet us halfway in order to also get what you want, because we're also doing what we need to do to get you good results, to make you look good. So there's always going to be some level of, compromise and just being able to agree and whatnot, but we always lead with honesty. I think when it comes to just how you conduct business. If you lead with honesty, let everything else, let chaos happen, because it will happen. That's like a standard, right? But if you were honest with either your suppliers or even with your clients, then whatever chaos does erupt, I don't think it should be something that would, yeah.
I think the most important question, anyone who watches this, some being your fans, some people you've done business with, and some people run into the episode because they've been watching me. What does social media engagement even mean to a company? Because a lot of people have 100K followers, then they'll turn off their likes.
We see a lot of those. I think part of the reason why I love what I do is because there's an education element to the work that we do and the services that we provide. So when we come into a boardroom, we start to break down all of these ideas and these things that but I want this person because they've got 2 million followers, and we have to kind of make someone understand, almost break it down as if they were a child, to say there's a difference between influence and popularity. And in this instance, we're looking for somebody who's influential. And that's where now we need to start breaking down all the different terminology, engagement versus impressions versus, all of the above. I don't want to give it all away because, guys, this is part of my bread. Do you know what I mean? 100%. This is part of my bread. But there are some big differences. It's actually a very vast world for somebody who doesn't understand social media. And this is why it's taken this industry, this world by storm, just with how quickly it's growing, how much technologies are coming around to improve. And I mean, if we're talking ChatGPT, I mentioned this because it's just part of the digital world. We saw a rise of, a decrease in copywriters being required for companies because you can basically
prompt it.
Do you know what I mean? And what you lose from that is just a human element, and this is where our work also becomes very interesting, because there isn't a concept that we come up with, there isn't a campaign that we develop from ground up that doesn't have a human element, because you need to be able to connect to the human being before reaching their pocket. So if whatever it is that we're doing doesn't resonate with the human being inside of you, then it means nothing at the end of the day, because you have the buying power to decide, do I want to spend my money on this? Do I want to spend money buying a ticket to said event? You know what I mean? It could be as simple as that. But all of these things, I say all of this to say that engagement, you said the difference between engagement and followers. Is really, it comes down to the influence versus popularity thing. There are people who just have a shit ton of followers, and I mean, that's just great, but it's not a lot of people engaging with your content, not a lot of people buying into whatever it is that you're saying. And it could be for multiple reasons. We also have tools that we use that help us break down, the sentiment. Was it a positive sentiment that people had to share about X campaign? Was it a negative? All of those things are important because they help you create a better product suited for your target audience.
I think the follow-up for me would be something I'm currently facing. You've been marketing and selling for so long. Do you think there's a time where you need to present the product that you market? Because if you've established when we speak, I can get Iwazi, Tolfelo, Mama to say the same thing to different people. Do you ever feel like there's going to be a point where you're like, actually, let's sell something I believe in, something I own?
There is going to be a time, and I think I've thought about it a lot, and I think just also spending time observing, seeing what the trends are. There are also a lot of I'm gonna use the word influencers respectfully. There are a lot of influencers / people who are popular who take that, you know what I mean, who pivot and say, okay, I've built this thing, or I've built brands my entire life. Now there's something for me to believe in. And I think actually noteworthy, one good case study would be Lisa Madibe. Any girl that's a girl on Instagram knows Lisa with the good hair. And I bring her up because I remember Liquid Chef days. I first met her at Liquid Chefs, and I thought she was the most beautiful girl. And she had really good hair. And like, I don't know how many years later, when was Liquid Chefs? It was eons ago. But all these years later, now she's just launched her hair brand. And some of the things that she was saying was, look, I've been doing my research, I've been like looking into this thing for like 10 years plus, and now it's finally happened. And I think that's so interesting and so key when you look at people who genuinely, this is a product that I believe in. It's not just a quick, and you can respect that. So I feel like I'm also still in school, still the same way that I had to study this business and this industry that I'm in. I'm still doing that with some of my own products and passions and things that I personally care about, where I'll take the bold step to say, okay, so this is what I want to do. But for now, I'm very happy with just being where I'm at in this place, learning more, because there's always something new. There's always some groundbreaking technology that's going to shift or do something different, or like new laws. That's another thing that we're spending a lot of our time doing, is just researching how certain industries, for instance, alcohol is really headed towards the same direction of tobacco, where we won't be able to
promote.
Exactly. So that's been quite interesting, and that also changes how we do our business. So you need to stay a step ahead, and that's why a lot of the time that I spend just goes to like researching. I sit in my house and I read and I Google and I try to figure things out.
Speaking of people like Lisa, who studied everything, then finally launched something that was within their realm. I'm seeing this new, I wouldn't say it's a trend, but I guess it's the progression.
Yeah.
Where you find people who are cool kids or relevant or creative now morph into musicians, DJs and all that. Do you feel like they're missing their peak, or is that the resurgence of them finding themselves? Because for me, I looked at it with my you know, I was like, I think when you were chilling with rappers, that's when you should have rapped. I don't think 5 years later after
in the street, you know? You guys are strict, the streets are strict. You know what, it is a resurgence of just people finding themselves. I understand what you mean, and why we would think, you know, certain people missed their peak and now they're just trying to, but I feel like it comes differently for each of us. Some of us, I'm going to make an example with myself. I feel like some of us retract, and it's like, I always like, from time to time, there isn't a week that goes by where I don't have this particular conversation with somebody where it's like, I came from a place in my career when I was starting out and needed to kind of solidify myself as like, be, you know, completely like outchecked, you know what I mean? There's not a single place where I wouldn't be when there's something going on. Trust me, Cherry's gonna be there. And now I've gone the complete opposite direction, where I instead, you know, I kind of retract and I just go into my hole and I try to figure things out, and then I step out when I feel like I've got something to contribute. So perhaps some people are like, okay, let me try this, because it seems like this now becomes a common route. Obviously, that's just how it goes. We're not all cutouts to be DJs and, you know, and all of that.
You know,
but
my friend said the most wickedest, realest thing I've ever heard. He said, not all of us are going to eat off our talents. What?
And that's true. That's true. So, but you need to go there and fail and find out. And it's that whole notion about failing forward. Like, you might look like a fool doing what you're doing, and, you know, like the cherries and the losses of the world are looking at you with their, you know, and I say this to implicate the both of us, but, you know, there are people who look at you like that, and then what if it just works out? What if this is what you were meant to be doing all along, but you wouldn't have known if you didn't go there? So I just think what we need to do is just be less strict on how people get to that place, you know, because just because we did it our way and it worked out doesn't mean that's the only way to get it. And yeah, let's just be less judgmental and give more grace to the oaks, man. I swear.
With the growth and new opportunities, less gatekeeping, and industry being open, what do you think people are doing wrong in terms of their social? Because you've gotten to a point in your life where you know what you want, what you don't want. But on a business stance, there's always a standard. What do you think a lot of people are doing wrong?
Just using social media as if you're invincible. And this is not 2012 where you can just, you know, post your like, you know, and I can't even finish the sentence because I'm thinking about my own, what I was doing back then, and the type of content that I used to put out there. But I just think, what I always say to myself, and just coming up into the industry and building some of the stuff that I've built, I've always said the same way that anybody who shows up to work in the morning, tie, you know, your collar and everything, social media should be treated the same way. This is something we also try to get down to the people that we work with, like our influencers, where we say, show up. You're coming to work and you're representing said brand. If we're working with FSPs, show up as if you're coming to the office. That's your office. So treat it as such. And in the same way, people will respond to you as such. I just think the social media has also made people feel as though they are invincible and you can do what you want, but it doesn't work like that, especially if it also is your place of work. And if you want to be respected in, you know, such a way, we don't show up to work in the same outfit we'd be wearing at sunset if you're a 9-to-5 guy. Do you know what I mean? and that's only because this is my place of work, and if people are going to engage with me respectfully and hear what I have to say and not look at my ass cheeks, titties out, whatever, and do what I'm asking them to do, then let me, you know, act appropriately. So I just think we need to be conscious of that. I get it, freedom of speech, and everybody is allowed to be, you know, who they are. Just have that in the back of your head. I hate that we've just become super careless, man, with the way that we behave, thinking that no one's going to hold you accountable. These days, what they do is they pull up your social media before anything else, and they'll say, we're vetting certain people because we don't want to be associated with Smangmang if that's what they're doing.
Yeah, funny enough, our partner last year, shout out to them, come back. The person who was in charge of all the comms literally said, I've been stalking you for 3 months.
There you go.
Like, that's kind of insane. There's a new thing that I want to put out there. We talk about recklessness, but I think we talk about all the heaviness of the industry and everything we're trying to accomplish. What's the things that you would say the game owes you this year? Just to be entitled a bit, what does the game
owes me? Jeez, and it's such a difficult one only because I've never felt like I was owed anything. And that could also be a trauma response, so I'm not like looking at it like, you know, shit. You know what? Like you're saying, if I had to be entitled, just recognizing that as a young black woman, this wasn't like what I did. Let's not downplay it. Yeah, let's not downplay what I've done, because I have walked into rooms with you know, people, and I look around and I'm like, oh the hell? Why? Do you know what I mean? So we because of, you know, like street cred and being cool and like whatever, certain people make it seem like what you're doing isn't dope.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure you felt like that as well when you're just like, bro, talk to me, guys. You know, but you never, and like I said, I don't wake up in the morning and think, it's like lava, you know? Yeah. But if there was anything, it would just, you know, some recognition in the sense that we don't downplay what it is that we've been able to do and are still doing. I say still doing because my guns are loaded. Like there's still so much that I want to do. And it's got more to do with tech. Like I see the social media thing, but I feel like there's a ceiling there. Yeah, there's a ceiling there that I've kind of scraped a little bit. So it's time to move over into tech, because I think that's really where the answers are. Yeah, but yeah, just like some acknowledgement, bro. Like this shit ain't easy.
Don't downplay it.
Don't downplay it.
Don't downplay it. You know what it is.
Oh,
you know what it is.
Yeah. Why? Why do you ask that question?
Why do I ask that question? I feel like we work so hard, we wear our work suit so much that we forget that ego to a certain extent carries you. Like I always say, to call yourself a creative is some arrogant shit. Why do you think the world needs your idea? Like it's about 8 billion right now, and you think your idea is good enough. Out of all these other people, you think your idea, like even the act of posting, it's like, why do you think so many people care about it? And I think most of my ideas, I really think well when I'm against the wall, which is a very dark, I don't know what it is. It's probably to do with some childhood stuff, but I really do well when I'm against the wall. Like when I feel ostracized, when I feel like I can't move. When I feel like I shouldn't move, that's the most active I'll be. Like right now, I'm at a point where like the things I want for what I've built thus far, I want it to be a bigger experience. We started the podcast, I always speak in third person, right? But I started the podcast, my favorite shooter, me. My favorite editor, me. My favorite interviewer, me.
I know that's right. Yeah.
So when we do all those things, I was like, yeah, but it's kind of cool to add another wing. I call it the 360. I was talking to Leslie about it. Leslie and Aaron. I was like, yo, the guys who created Says on Sundays.
Okay.
I was talking to them. I was like, I think creativity should be a 360. You can't just limit your creativity to the time you're selling. I think there needs to be a part where people are engaging, not just consuming like you. So that's when I created the cycling club, because I feel like, let's chill. Cycle with us. Let's come, let's chill, let's do all these activities that make us better people. It's one thing to know things, it's another thing to experience things.
That's true.
And I feel like you need to create an environment within yourself, within your creativity, also to allow people to experience you.
And this is the thing about community we spoke about earlier in the interview, right? Community is important because that's also where you get your inspiration, no? When you hang out with the cyclists, nah?
Yeah.
When you hang out with, because you guys are some cool guys, like I've seen you guys, I ran into you in Parkers. It's like there are things that come up in conversation that you think, this would be something good. So I feel you. That's important. Yeah.
How have you maintained your community thus far? Because you grew up cool. Now you growing up into a very seasoned creative entrepreneur.
Let's break down one thing. I think cool is subjective, right?
There's universal cool.
Yeah.
Like even if someone doesn't know you, when you just chill, you're like, oh, she's cool. She dresses nice.
Because I think that's where my cool came from, if I have to distinguish it for the purposes of answering this question. So I've kept that, like that's who I've always been, right? I like to, dress up, look cute, I suppose cool to the next person. And I just think where the coolness fades is because as you grow and you evolve and you transition from what you used to be and whatnot, it's like, I'm no longer at all of those parties and all of those places. And that's okay because also like I want something else that's no longer there. So let's branch into other things. And I think for as long as you stay true to who you are, I'll always be cool no matter what room I walk into. I could be the cool girl. Currently I'm actually, I'm like the church girl now. Do you know what I mean? So like I could be the cool usher girl because I'm an usher. So if you come to church and you see me, say hi, okay? Jesus loves all of us. But so you can be cool in whatever spaces you occupy. It's just really like, what are you there for and what are you bringing to the table? Because people respond to the energy that, you kind of come with. If you're gonna come and dial everybody out, regardless of where you are, even if I do go to Sunset or to Roast, if I'm bringing that energy, nobody wants to hang around. Like, it's just like, when you are Maslow, Ali, just complaining. Fuck this, no. So, I just think, because now with a lot of the people that I spend my time with, we all have, the same, the same interests. We hike every 2 weeks, do you know what I mean? The same way you cycle. So it's like, okay, and if it's not that, just sitting at home reading, because I think now, as I've grown old, I've also kind of gone back to just like default settings. I just want to be at home. I want to, let me watch something, let me, no longer care so much about the streets. And that's because the streets really remain the same. It's just people in rotation. So.
And then you have your veterans who never want to leave.
Hey, and you know what? To each their own. But I mean, at some point, it's like, come on, bro. you don't recognize the people there.
I'm really, really good at losing. Like every time I look at my life, I'm like, oh shit, we lost that much money. But after that, we recouped. Because unfortunately, in South Africa, people only invest in things that they've seen before. No matter how good Cherry can market our brand to the highest tier. Until Cherry markets a festival, we won't let Cherry market our festival. And how has that affected you as a creator?
I think you develop a thick skin, firstly, because that's not going to stop. Whether you're at the top or you're at the bottom, there's always going to be someone who wants to minimize whatever it is that you're doing. And this is me trying to be politically correct. But with that thick skin, you also kind of tell yourself, okay, I don't give a damn. If you don't like the potatoes I'm selling, I'm gonna go next door. There's always gonna be somebody who wants to buy. And that's the beauty of having just like, a bunch of, everybody's trying to sell something. I always say this. So it's just like, come to my side, come to this club and I'll show you how to sell the shit out of that. We'll make it really cool. It's not about the people, the person, and I mean, this takes us to like into the realm of like gatekeeping or whatever. You can only keep me out until really other people are gonna start seeing, look, the work speaks for itself. And if the work is good, I always say focus on the work. If the work is good, they cannot deny it. They can say what they want to say, but you'll get in there regardless. So yeah, just it's really just like putting on the blinders, forgetting what Smang has to say. Because if that was how we made decisions and decided if we're going to take risks or not, then a lot of us won't get anywhere because they've said that, yeah, whatever, Yeah, eventually the work on its own gets you into the room, it gets you to the right places because they see it and they want to know who did that. And maybe when they do find out, someone might say, actually, no, I don't want it. Or they go looking for someone who they think can do it like you did and you realize, it's not the same, bro.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
They don't do it the same.
Yeah.
They come back to you. Are you charging inflation?
Yes.
And reparations?
Yes. And we've had situations like that where a client decides, nope, that's fine, no thanks. They go away. Trust and believe, especially when I've told you, I've said, listen, because again, leading with honesty and just, humility to say, my nigga, we can do this thing, man. But this is what it's gonna take. You have to be able to go to a place where your client doesn't like what you're saying, but it is the truth, and let them make a decision. And if they still choose to, rather, let me just say, to not take your advice, let them fail forward. Let them go, exhaust that initial budget, and then you come back and you say, but I mean, technically you took my consult to somebody else and it didn't work because they don't understand this thing the way that I do. So if we're going to do it, we want to do it right, and I need you to know that you're going to pay for it because there's always going to be, of course, that was a silly thing that you didn't have to do, and that's just what it is. It has happened in the past. It's not a nice place to be because it does make you feel as though, I'm playing second fiddle. And sometimes that's what it takes to earn our spot, to get to a place where the client does trust what you have to say first, because you have to go out there and get burnt and then you come back. So it's that whole thing of resilience. As a business, as an entrepreneur, you need to be willing to let some people go and let them come back if they want to come back. They usually do, especially if you are, if you're standing on business and you know exactly what you're talking about. So, yeah.
Final and most important question.
Oh, that sounds scary.
What's your word to leave?
What's my word to leave with? Let's not get cocky and think we've arrived. There's a lot of things that, tend to get to our heads where you feel like, Vanna, I'm here. But as quickly as you get there, you can also fall and lose it all. And I'm not, this is not even, I don't want to go on the whole, your OGs, it's not about that. Just always go into life as a student. In the spaces that you walk into, the opportunities that you're granted, look at them as if, geez, I don't deserve this. What can I learn from this situation? What can I learn from this gig? What can I learn from this relationship? And that will always kind of, put you in a position where you're not looking at it as what I stand to gain, but what can I contribute and give for the next person? Because if you're just thinking about yourself, then, and the world doesn't revolve around you. So I'm saying, let's just not feel like we've arrived. If you feel like you've arrived, you're robbing yourself of some of your blessings. Because also someone will look at you and say, this guy's all, he's got it figured out. What can I do for him? Not knowing who I'm actually hungry, dog. Which I am. So, bring the briefs, guys.
I need it.
We all need it. We all need it.
No, I need it like I need air.
That's how I feel.
We could do something.
For sure.
for your fiscal year.
Come on.
Not the quarter. The
year.
And I know the budget's new.
Yeah, they're fresh out.
Fresh
They're
out.
fresh out. It's only 11th of March. They're fresh out.
We'll meet the KPI.
Yeah, hit us up. Give us a shot. Do you know what I mean? Take a shot on young Black creatives. I think what I will say is that there's never been a greater time than now to be a young Black creative, because the world is literally our oyster. There's so much information that's available to us. There's so much opportunity, and because we're always looked at as what do they have to offer, we've actually got something to prove. That's why also so many of us are like so relentless when it comes to our pursuit of success or whatever. So there's never been a greater time to be a young Black hungry creative, because we've got the juice. We've really got the juice. So yeah, I'm excited.
Juice. I got the juice.
You've got the juice for real.
Put it juice in the beer. A beautiful edition. Yeah, that's the name. Beautiful edition.
Beautiful edition.